Daddy, look! Miss Keisha is making me beautiful like Mommy used to. Aria's words hit Dominic Pierce like lightning. The 27-year-old black cleaning lady was doing something he hadn't been able to do in 2 years, bringing his daughter back to life. If this story touches your heart, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe because what happens next will restore your faith and love forever. The Pierce mansion stood like a monument to grief. Every marble surface, every crystal chandelier, every perfectly arranged flower seemed frozen in time, the exact moment when laughter died within these walls. Dominic Pierce, 34, CEO of Pierce Industries and one of the youngest billionaires in the country, walked through his $50 million estate with the mechanical precision of a man who had forgotten how to truly live. 2 years. That's how long it had been since Isabella's funeral. 2 years since leukemia had stolen not just his wife, but the soul of his home. His 8-year-old daughter Aria moved through the halls like a ghost of her former self. Her bright blue eyes, so much like her mother's, now dulled by a loss too profound for a child to comprehend. "Good morning, Mr. Pierce," his head butler, James, greeted him with practiced formality. "Your coffee is ready in the study, and I've arranged for the new cleaning service to begin today." Dominic nodded absently, his attention caught by the sound of silence from upstairs. Aria should be getting ready for school, but lately mornings had become a battle. She would sit in front of her vanity mirror, staring at the makeup collection Isabella had left behind, too afraid to touch anything but too heartbroken to look away. "The cleaning lady comes highly recommended," James continued. "Miss Robinson. She starts today." "Fine," Dominic replied, already lost in thoughts of board meetings and quarterly reports, anything to avoid confronting the emptiness that seemed to expand with each passing day. What he didn't know was that Keisha Robinson, 27, was standing outside the mansion gates at that very moment, taking a deep breath before entering what she hoped would be more than just another job. With her stunning natural beauty, warm brown eyes, and a smile that could light up the darkest room, Keisha carried her own invisible wounds. She had grown up without knowing her mother, raised by a grandmother who taught her that love meant taking care of others, even when life hadn't taken care of you. As Keisha walked through the front door carrying her cleaning supplies and wearing a simple uniform that couldn't diminish her natural radiance, she had no idea that she was about to step into a story that would change 3 lives forever. The mansion felt cold despite its grandeur, and she immediately sensed the profound sadness that seemed to echo through every room. "The family has been through a difficult time," James explained quietly as he showed her around. "Mrs. Pierce passed away 2 years ago from leukemia. The little girl, Aria, she hasn't been the same since. Mr. Pierce does his best, but grief affects people differently." Keisha's heart immediately went out to this broken family. She understood loss intimately, not from death, but from abandonment. Her own mother had left when she was just 5, disappearing one morning and never returning. Her grandmother had filled that void with unconditional love, teaching her that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply show up for someone who needs you. "I understand," Keisha said softly. "I'll be respectful of their space." But as she began her work on the 2nd floor, she heard something that made her pause. Soft crying was coming from behind a partially closed door. Through the gap, she could see a little girl with long blonde hair sitting in front of a vanity, holding a tube of lipstick with trembling hands. "I can't remember, Mommy," Aria whispered to her reflection. "I can't remember how you used to make me pretty for tea parties. I'm forgetting you, and I don't want to forget you." The raw pain in that small voice broke something open in Keisha's chest. Without thinking, she knocked gently on the door. "Hi there, sweetie. I'm Keisha. Are you okay?" Aria looked up with eyes red from crying. For a moment, she just stared at this beautiful woman who seemed to radiate warmth. "You're really pretty," she said quietly. "Like my mommy was." "Thank you, Angel, and you're absolutely beautiful too." Keisha stepped carefully into the room, noticing the scattered makeup on the vanity. "What are you trying to do here?" "I'm trying to remember how Mommy used to do my makeup for our tea parties," Aria said, her bottom lip quivering. "But I can't remember, and Daddy doesn't know how. He just gets sad when I ask." Keisha's heart broke for this little girl. She sat down beside her on the small vanity stool. "You know what? My grandmother used to do my makeup when I was about your age. Would you like me to show you?" For the first time in 2 years, something sparked in Aria's eyes. "Really? You would do that?" "Of course, baby girl, but first, tell me about your mommy. What was she like? As Aria began to share memories of Isabella, how she always wore cherry lip balm, how she would hum while doing Aria's hair, how she made every ordinary day feel like a celebration, Keisha felt something profound happening. This wasn't just about makeup. This was about helping a little girl reconnect with the love she thought she was losing. Mommy always said that when you put on lipstick. You're not trying to be someone else, Aria said, her voice growing stronger with each word. You're just helping your inner beauty shine brighter. Your mommy sounds like a very wise woman, Keisha said, carefully applying a soft pink gloss to Aria's lips. And you know what? I can see so much of her in you. In the way you smile, the way you talk about her with so much love. Really? You think I'm like her? I think you're exactly like her, but you're also uniquely you. And that's what makes you so special. As Keisha worked, gently applying a touch of blush to Aria's cheeks and showing her how to brush her hair the way Isabella used to, something magical was happening. For the first time since her mother's death, Aria was truly laughing. Not the forced smile she put on for her father, but genuine, bubbling joy. And that's exactly when Dominic Pierce came home early from work. Dominic had left his office building with a familiar weight pressing against his chest. Another day of mechanical productivity, another day of pretending that success could fill the void that Isabella's death had carved into his soul. The quarterly reports were excellent, the board was pleased, and Pierce Industries was thriving. But as he drove through the gates of his estate, all he felt was the crushing loneliness of returning to a house that had forgotten how to be a home. He expected the usual greeting from James. The usual silence from upstairs where Aria would be doing homework or staring out her window with that distant look that broke his heart daily. What he didn't expect was the sound that stopped him dead in his tracks as he opened the front door. Laughter. Real, genuine, uninhibited laughter coming from upstairs. The kind of laughter that Aria used to fill the house with before their world fell apart. Dominic dropped his briefcase and took the stairs 2 at a time, following the sound of his daughter's joy. As he approached her bedroom, he heard another voice, a woman's voice, warm and musical, talking about bringing out your natural glow and how your mommy would be so proud. He reached the doorway, and what he saw made his breath catch in his throat. Aria was sitting at her vanity, absolutely radiant with happiness, while a stunning black woman with gentle hands was carefully applying makeup to her small face. But it wasn't just any makeup application, it was done with the same loving care. The same attention to detail, the same tender words that Isabella used to use. Daddy, look. Miss Keisha is making me beautiful, like Mommy used to. Aria's words hit Dominic like lightning. The joy in her voice, the light in her eyes that had been missing for 2 long years, it was all there again. Brought back by this 27-year-old cleaning lady who was somehow doing what he'd been unable to do. Keisha looked up at him, and for a moment, time seemed suspended. She had the most beautiful face he'd ever seen, not just physically beautiful, though she certainly was that, but beautiful, in a way that seemed to radiate from somewhere deep inside her soul. Her eyes held a mixture of compassion, understanding, and something he couldn't quite identify but that made his heart race in a way it hadn't since Isabella was alive. I'm so sorry, Mr. Pierce, Keisha said, immediately standing up. I didn't mean to overstep. Aria seemed upset, and I just wanted to help. No, Dominic said quickly, still processing what he was seeing. His daughter looked more alive than she had in 2 years. I'm not upset. I'm just ... surprised. Daddy, look what Miss Keisha taught me. Aria spun around on her stool, her face glowing with pride. She knows all the same things Mommy knew about makeup. And she told me that Mommy's love lives in my heart, not in the makeup, but sometimes the makeup can help us remember how much we're loved. Dominic felt his throat tighten with emotion. This stranger had not only brought joy back to his daughter, but had somehow found a way to honor Isabella's memory while doing it. Miss Keisha, he said, his voice rougher than he intended, could I speak with you for a moment? Aria, why don't you show yourself in the mirror one more time? As they stepped into the hallway, Dominic found himself struggling for words. This woman, this beautiful, kind woman had done something in one afternoon that he'd been trying to do for 2 years. I don't know how to thank you, he began. Aria hasn't been that happy since her mother died. You don't need to thank me, Keisha said softly. She's a special little girl. She just needed someone to listen to her and help her feel connected to her mother's love again. How did you know what to do? How did you know exactly what she needed? Keisha's expression grew tender, but sad. I never knew my mother, Mr. Pierce. She left when I was 5, and I spent my whole childhood wondering what it would have been like to have those moments, getting ready together. Learning about beauty and self-care, feeling special and loved. My grandmother did her best, but there's something about a mother-daughter connection that's irreplaceable. She paused, looking back toward Aria's room where the little girl was still admiring herself in the mirror. When I saw Aria struggling with those memories, trying so hard to hold on to something beautiful she thought she was losing, I just wanted to show her that love doesn't disappear. It transforms, but it never truly goes away. Dominic stared at this extraordinary woman who had managed to articulate something he'd been feeling but couldn't express. "You've given her something I couldn't," he admitted. "I'd been so focused on my own grief that I didn't realize she needed help celebrating her mother's memory instead of just mourning it." If you're feeling emotional right now, hit that like button to show your support for families healing together. Over the next few weeks, Keisha's presence in the Pierce mansion began to change everything. What had started as a cleaning job evolved into something much more meaningful. Aria would wait by the window every morning, watching for Keisha's arrival, and would spend her afternoons learning not just about makeup and beauty, but about confidence, self-love, and keeping her mother's memory alive in healthy ways. But it wasn't just Aria who was being transformed. Dominic found himself coming home earlier from work, drawn by the sound of laughter that once again filled his home. He would linger in doorways, watching Keisha interact with his daughter with a natural maternal instinct that took his breath away. She wasn't trying to replace Isabella, something he'd feared from any woman who showed interest in his family, but rather, she was helping Aria celebrate the love Isabella had given her while creating new, beautiful memories. "Miss Keisha," Aria said one afternoon as they were organizing the makeup collection together, "do you think Mommy would like you?" Keisha paused in her sorting of lipsticks, considering the question seriously. "I don't know, sweetheart. But I hope she would appreciate that I love you and want you to be happy." "I think she would like you a lot," Aria said confidently. "Daddy likes you." "I can tell." "What makes you think that?" Keisha asked, trying to keep her voice casual despite the way her heart skipped. "He smiles now when he comes home. He didn't used to smile. And yesterday, I saw him watching you help me with my hair. And he had the same look in his eyes that he used to get when he watched Mommy." That evening, Dominic did something he'd never done before. He asked Keisha to stay after her work was finished. "I wanted to talk to you," he said as they sat in his study, the room warm with lamplight, and the kind of comfortable quiet that develops between people who understand each other, about Aria, but also about other things. Keisha sat across from him, still beautiful, even after a full day of work, her natural elegance undiminished by her simple clothes. "What's on your mind, Mr. Pierce?" "Please, call me Dominic." "And what's on my mind is how grateful I am, but also how confused I am." "Confused about what?" Dominic leaned forward, his hands clasped together. "For 2 years I felt like I was drowning in grief. Not just for Isabella, but for the father I used to be, for the man who could make his daughter laugh, for the person who believed that love was worth the risk of loss." He paused, looking directly into her eyes. "And then you walk into our lives, and suddenly Aria is laughing again. And I'm remembering what it feels like to look forward to coming home, and I'm thinking thoughts I never expected to think again." "What kind of thoughts?" Keisha asked quietly. "Thoughts about how beautiful you are, not just physically, but in your soul. Thoughts about how natural you are with Aria, how you've managed to honor Isabella's memory while giving my daughter something new to cherish. Thoughts about how, when I watch you with her, I see the possibility of healing, of wholeness, of maybe even happiness again." Keisha was quiet for a long moment, her hands folded in her lap. When she spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "Dominic, I need you to know that I never intended for any of this to happen. I came here to clean your house and earn an honest living. But from the moment I met Aria, something in my heart recognized something in hers. And lately, when I'm with both of you, I feel like I'm part of something I've been searching for my whole life without even knowing it." "What do you mean?" "I mean family, real family. Not just people who share blood, but people who choose to love each other, to show up for each other, to build something beautiful together despite the pain they've been through." She stood up, moving to the window that overlooked the garden where Aria often played. "I love her, Dominic. I love your daughter as if she were my own. And that terrifies me because I know how easily love can be lost." Dominic rose and walked to stand beside her. "It terrifies me too. But maybe that's exactly why we need to be brave enough to try." They stood together in the quiet, both of them feeling the weight and the wonder of what was happening between them. "There's something else," Keisha said eventually. "Something I need to tell you. What is it?" When I first met Aria, when I saw her struggling with those memories of her mother, it wasn't just empathy I felt. It was recognition. She reminded me of myself at that age, longing for a mother's love, for someone to teach me about being a woman, about being beautiful, about being worthy of love. She turned to face him fully. "But lately, when I'm here with you both, I feel like I'm not just helping Aria heal from losing her mother. I'm healing from never having had one. This family, this love, this sense of belonging, it's everything I've dreamed of but never believed I deserved." Dominic reached out and gently took her hand. "Keisha, you deserve everything beautiful this world has to offer. And if you're willing, if you're brave enough to try, I'd like to see if we can build something beautiful together. Not to replace what was, but to create what could be." Before she could respond, they heard small footsteps on the stairs. "Daddy? Miss Keisha? Are you in there?" Aria's voice called out. "Yes, sweetheart, we're here," Dominic called back. Aria appeared in the doorway, her hair slightly messed from sleep, holding her favorite stuffed animal, a white rabbit that Isabella had given her. "I had a dream about Mommy," she said, walking over to them. "She was happy, and she told me that she sent Miss Keisha to take care of us because she couldn't be here anymore. But she wanted to make sure we weren't alone." The three of them stood together in that moment, each processing the profound simplicity and truth of what Aria had just shared. "What else did she say in your dream?" Keisha asked, kneeling down to Aria's eye level. "She said that love doesn't end when people die. It just finds new ways to grow. And she said that if I love you and Daddy loves you, then it's like her love is growing too." Tears filled Dominic's eyes as he watched this incredible woman embrace his daughter with such genuine tenderness. In that moment, he realized that what he was feeling wasn't a betrayal of Isabella's memory, it was an extension of her love, a continuation of the beautiful family she'd wanted for Aria. 6 months later, the Pierce mansion had been transformed. Not structurally, but spiritually. Laughter echoed through the halls again. The kitchen smelled of homemade cookies, Keisha's grandmother's recipe, and Aria's bedroom had become a place of joy rather than mourning. The makeup collection was still there, but now it was used for play dates and special occasions, for moments of connection rather than desperate attempts to hold on to fading memories. Keisha had officially moved from cleaning lady to family member, though her title had never been clearly defined. She was there every day, caring for Aria, bringing life back to the home, and slowly, carefully, allowing herself to fall deeply in love with both the little girl who had stolen her heart and the man who had taught her that love could bloom again even in soil that had known profound loss. Dominic had been planning this day for weeks. He'd involved Aria in every detail, wanting his daughter to be part of what he hoped would be the next chapter of their story together. It was a Saturday afternoon in spring, and he'd arranged for a picnic in the garden, the same garden where Isabella had loved to read, but which had been neglected since her death. Over the past months, Keisha and Aria had worked together to bring it back to life, planting flowers and creating a space that honored the past while embracing the future. "Miss Keisha," Aria said as they spread out the picnic blanket, "Daddy has something important to tell you." "Does he now?" Keisha laughed, glancing at Dominic, who was looking nervous in the most endearing way. "What's got you so serious, Mr. Pierce?" "Actually," Dominic said, sitting down beside her on the blanket, "there's something we both want to tell you. Isn't that right, Aria?" Aria nodded solemnly, clearly bursting with excitement but trying to contain herself. Dominic reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, but before opening it, he took Keisha's hands in his. "Keisha, 6 months ago, you walked into our lives as someone hired to clean our house. But what you actually did was so much more profound. You helped us remember how to be a family. You taught Aria that love doesn't disappear when someone dies, it just learns new ways to express itself. And you taught me that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means finding the courage to love again." Keisha's eyes were already filling with tears. "You've shown up for us every single day, not because you had to, but because you chose to. You've loved my daughter as your own, you've honored Isabella's memory while creating new traditions. And you've made me believe in the possibility of happiness again." He opened the velvet box, revealing a stunning but simple diamond ring. "Keisha Robinson, would you do us the honor of becoming officially part of this family? Would you marry me?" But before Keisha could answer, Aria jumped up from the blanket. And would you be my mommy? She asked, her voice full of hope and love. Not to replace my first mommy, but to be my always mommy from now on? Keisha looked between the two people who had become her whole world, tears streaming down her face. For a moment she couldn't speak. The little girl who had grown up without a mother was being asked to become one. The woman who had never believed she deserved a great love was being offered exactly that. Yes, she whispered, and then louder, yes, yes, yes. As Dominic slipped the ring onto her finger and Aria launched herself into both their arms, the three of them held each other in the garden where love had been lost and found again. I love you both so much, Keisha said through her tears. I never knew it was possible to be this happy. Miss Keisha, Aria said, pulling back to look at her seriously. You don't have to be Miss Keisha anymore. You can just be mommy now. Is that what you want, sweetheart? It's what I've wanted since the very first day you helped me remember how beautiful I am. The wedding took place 1 year later, in the same garden where the proposal had happened. It was small and intimate, with only close friends and family, but it was perfect in every way that mattered. Aria served as both flower girl and maid of honor, wearing a dress that Isabella had bought for her before her death, a decision that Keisha had suggested and that Dominic had initially worried about, but which felt exactly right when the day arrived. Mommy Isabella would have loved this day, Aria said, as Keisha helped her get ready in what had once been Isabella's dressing room. I dreamed about her again last night and she was so happy. She said she's proud of how our family learned to love bigger instead of smaller. Love bigger instead of smaller, Keisha repeated, adjusting Aria's flower crown. I like that. That's exactly what we've done, isn't it? As Keisha walked down the aisle, she saw Dominic waiting for her at the altar they'd set up under the ancient oak tree, and she was overwhelmed by the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a broken family drowning in grief to a new kind of family built on the foundation of that grief but reaching toward joy, it was more beautiful than any fairy tale she'd ever imagined. The ceremony was officiated by Dominic's longtime friend, who spoke about how love comes in many forms, the love that Isabella had given this family, the love that Keisha had brought to heal them, and the new love they were creating together. Do you, Dominic Pierce, take Keisha to be your wife, your partner, your family? The officiant asked. I do, Dominic said, his voice strong and sure. I promise to love you, to honor the journey that brought us together, and to build a beautiful future with you and Aria. And you, Keisha Robinson, take Dominic to be your husband and Aria to be your daughter? I do, Keisha said, looking between the man and the little girl who had become her everything. I promise to love you both, to honor Isabella's memory as part of our family story, and to show up for this love every single day for the rest of my life. When they were pronounced husband and wife, and when Aria ran up to join their first kiss as a married couple, there wasn't a dry eye among their guests. At the reception, Aria made a speech that brought everyone to tears. I want to thank Mommy Keisha, she said, standing on a chair so everyone could see her, for teaching me that having two mommies doesn't mean I love one less. It means I get to love more. And I want to thank her for giving my daddy back his smile and for making our house feel like a home again. She paused, looking at Keisha and Dominic. And I want to thank my first mommy, Isabella, for sending us exactly the person we needed when we needed her most. 2 years later, the Pierce family had grown in the most beautiful way. Keisha was pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl, and Aria was beyond excited to become a big sister. Mommy Keisha, Aria said one evening as they were setting up the nursery together. Do you think the babies will remember Mommy Isabella even though they never met her? I think they'll know her through all the love she put into this family, Keisha replied, her hand on her growing belly. They'll know her through you, through Daddy's stories, and through the way her love helped create the family they're being born into. Will you tell them how we all found each other? Every day, Keisha promised. I'll tell them about the little girl who was brave enough to let a stranger help her with her makeup, and about the daddy who was brave enough to love again, and about how sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones that choose each other. Dominic appeared in the doorway, watching his wife and daughter with wonder that never seemed to fade. What are you two planning in here? He asked, joining them in the nursery that had once been a guest room but was now filled with cribs and hope. We're making sure the babies know they're part of a love story, Aria explained seriously. The best kind of love story, Keisha added, reaching for Dominic's hand. The kind where everyone gets to be happy in the end. As the three of them stood together in that room, preparing for the new lives that would soon join their family. They represented something beautiful and profound, proof that love doesn't end with loss. It transforms into something even more powerful, that families can be created by choice as much as by blood, and that sometimes the most broken hearts become the ones capable of the greatest love. If this story of healing, hope, and unconditional love touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Leave a comment telling us what family means to you. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove love always finds a way to win.